The Comedy Historian Podcast with Robert and Gemma Ross. Welcome to the latest episode of Quip Wrecked, the podcast which discusses which comedy actor and actress you would choose to be on a desert island with, along with your choice of a comedy creative, be it a director, writer or producer, and your favourite TV sitcom, along with favourite comedy film. In today's episode, Robert is joined by one of Britain's best-loved situational comedy actors, Jeffrey Holland. Fondly remembered as Spike Dixon in Heidi High, he became an invaluable member of the repertory company of writer and director David Croft. Jeffrey is a seasonal favourite in Panto, and he also performed in Goon Again, taking on the many voices of Peter Sellers. Jeffrey has also recently written his memoirs, The First Rule of Comedy, Memories and Moments, published by the History Press in spring 2025. So, are you ready to be Quip Wrecked with Jeffrey Holland?
So, hello, I'm Robert Ross, and welcome to another edition of the podcast Quip Wrecked, where I talk to some of my favourite people about their favourite funny people and funny things. And the guest today is, I'm going to say, a comedy legend, a person whose name would probably appear on a lot of people's lists of favourite funny people. It's Mr. Jeffrey Holland.
Hello, Rob. Comedy legend. That's me.
A legend, yes, a legend. Well, I mean, Jeff, you know, we've done a lot of shows together, and including several performances of a thing called Comedy Friends and Comedy Heroes.
Right, that's right.
So I sort of know quite a lot of your comedy heroes, but I always start these shows with, when did we first meet? Do you remember?
I remember. I'll never forget it because it was... No, I don't mean that as an ask.
Thank you.
Lovely way. It was very, very fortuitous. We met on a cruise ship. It was a comedy-themed cruise run by Chris Gidney of That Entertainment Productions. And he booked you to do some talks on comedy heroes and it was books that you've written about them. And he got me there to talk about all the sitcom stuff that I've done. And you and I met for the first time just after I think you'd done one of your talks at the end of it. And I was sort of came down to commiserate. I mean, to congratulate you.
Yes. You were there. You were there with the stiff drink, I seem to remember. But no, I mean, you know, I've said this many times, and you sometimes sort of put a beautifully comic face. But I only accepted that job to work that cruise because I wanted to meet you.
What can I say? I don't believe a word of it, but it's.
But I mean, we should have met years before, really. But somehow we were always missing each other, weren't we?
Yeah. We've talked about it since, and we know that we were under the same roof on various occasions, but never actually met.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it was meant to be when it was meant to be.
On a gorgeous cruise, and I remember I always say it was comedy love at first sight, wasn't it, really?
It was. That's a lovely phrase. It was, very much so, you know. And you and I hit it off instantly. I kept asking you questions like, silly, who played so-and-so in so-and-so? And, of course, you knew all the answers. It was silly of me to try and really catch you out, really, which you knew. And
I would ask you, who played so-and-so in that TV series? And you knew as well. So there you go. No, it was good. It was good. And, yeah, we had lots of fun on that cruise. So, I mean, as I say, we did do a show together called Comedy Friends and Comedy Heroes. And we've subsequently written, or you've written your book, and I've helped you out on a few of the points, called The First Rule of Comedy, which is out now and doing very well, I'm pleased to say.
It's I'm getting lots of lovely feedback on email from people who've just read it. And only this morning I had one, and yesterday I had a really beautiful one from a chap who actually bought my last copy of the book at Bressingham event when we were there in May.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Do, and he absolutely loved it, and you know he had no idea I'd done quite so much. I think this was really catching people out, you know. Because I'm really known for the David Croft TV stuff that I did, and rightly so, you know. But you know, I did have a career before all that started, and my pantomime life as well was a separate entity completely, and people have been very surprised to find out that I've done all that and worked with all those marvellous people that you have been able to flesh out for me in the book, because I didn't know as much as about them as you know. And when I've mentioned them in my story, you put some background information in, which has managed to colour it up. I made a wonderful job of it, and I don't think I could have done that without you, but thank you.
Oh, bless you, Jeff. No, well, all I did was shade in the gaps, really.
Well,
that's how I felt, but yeah. Oh, bless. Well, okay, so this is going to be fun, because I think I know a lot of the answers, but you might surprise me. So the object of the game is 5 categories. So let's start with, you mentioned your career before the David Croft. There's obviously a huge career after David Croft as well. And talking about your favourite comedy man. Now, who would that be?
Well, I mean, I think I'm probably best known for my favourite comedy hero being Stan Laurel. Laurel and Hardy fame, of course. And it's no secret that I've done a one-man show about Stan now for the last 10 years called This Is My Friend, Mr. Laurel, which I took to Edinburgh, and it became a big winner for me there. I sold out several times, which was marvellous. But, you know, Stan and Ollie apart, that's a given, I suppose, for me. But my real other comedy hero in the movies, particularly, and has to be said, radio, is the late, great Peter Sellers. About him that you don't know, I know, because you've got a book out, which you finally gave me a copy of, and I've read it, and it's a fabulous read. It really is.
Well, that's brilliant. Well, we can plug your book and my book at the same time then, because you were the first person I gave a copy of the bestsellers Peter Sellers book to, because I knew you were a big fan of him, as am I, but also you played Peter's characters in Goon Again, didn't you?
I was very lucky to be offered that by Dirk Maggs, who produced the tribute show at the 50th anniversary in 2001. It's 24 years ago now. Well,
yeah.
But he'd heard me do the Sellers stuff just for fun, you know, because he was a big Goon Show fan himself. And in fact, he worked with Spike Milligan on radio in his Flywheel, Shyster and Flywheel series. And Milligan loved him. And he was very lucky that Milligan did love him, because Milligan was a very hard man to please, as we know. A tricky character, but bipolar isn't funny. You know.
And Spike wouldn't have trusted many people to get their hands on the Goon shows, would he? So the fact that Dirk did that was quite a privilege.
I've got an interview that Dirk did with him, on a recorded interview, and he talks about the Flywheel, Shyster and Flywheel, you know, recreating the Marx Brothers. And then he said, how would you feel? He asked him directly, he said, how would you feel about recreating a Goon show? And Spike was instantly on his guard and said, well, it's a different thing altogether, totally different thing altogether. You know, I don't know how you could do it. He said, well, would you let me have a go? He said, well, I do trust you, Dirk, you know. But anyway, the rest is history.
Well, I've heard that interview, and that's because obviously both Spike and Harry, although they were fairly unwell at the time, they were still around when you did that. Peter Sellers, of course, had passed away 21 years earlier. And I think Spike says you can't do it without Sellers, pretty much. And, of course, they did, because you came in to fill the shoes. So, I mean...
I did an audition recording for Dirk to give to Spike and to Norma Farms, Spike's manager, who actually owns the rights to the Goon Show, so that she could and he could listen and see if they approved of what I was doing with the characters. And thank God they did. They said yes, and we went ahead and did it. So it was such a great thing for me to be able to do. Wonderful.
It's fabulous. I mean, because you don't need to close your eyes because it's radio. It's Sellers' back, really. What was it about Peter's performance, particularly as a fellow comedy actor, that really hit your heart about how good Sellers was?
He never stopped. I mean, when you could see him on the screen, every time I watched him on screen, there's never a moment when he's not acting. I mean, you see him, and some actors just relax when they're not talking. And he's always gone back to himself. Oh, no, he's back in character. But Sellers never stopped. Whatever he was playing, he's Fred Kite in I'm All Right, Jack, was a marvellous step out of what he was known for at the time. Somebody was very brave to give him that role. But he handled it absolutely brilliantly. Dead straight, right down the middle. He was a trade unionist and a tough one. And by God, you knew it, because he never stopped. It was just extraordinary to watch that man. And vocally, he was always different vocally. Some of the silly stuff he did, some of the Pink Panther stuff he did when he was obviously relaxing and having fun at great expense. At the film's expense a lot of the time as well. He just loved playing Clouseau, didn't he?
But he'd almost earned that privilege, hadn't he? Because he'd been, as you say, so many brilliant performances, 3 performances in Doctor Strangelove, for example. And as you say, he's almost allowed to relax and have a bit of fun for 6 months and do a Pink Panther to sort of just enjoy himself. But it's still brilliant, still brilliantly funny slapstick comedy, isn't it?
He topped it off with being there. What a performance. I mean, some people say he was playing Stan Laurel, but he did admit to using Stan Laurel, I think, as part of the characterization. But it was just a joy to watch him being so different, so very different. He never ceased to amaze me, really.
You must get this again, because certain journalists always sort of say, oh, he's a comedy actor, and they're sort of bowled over by the fact where Sellers, for example, played it really straight in a comedy scenario in being there. You must have this when you're playing a serious part on stage. Oh, it's Jeffrey Holland, the comedy actor.
Yes, I get that all the time. It's my other nickname, I'm the comedy actor Jeffrey Holland, because I'm known for it, but I'm not. I'm an actor, first and foremost, with a capital A, and I put it in the book. I've been to the mill at Sonning a few times with Judy and without Judy. We've been there together and stuff. But the one theatre where Sally Hughes, who runs it, knows my worth and knows my ability, and usually booked me for the dramas to do there, which was lovely for me to go and stretch a few different acting muscles to the ones I'm used to doing, But comedy actors, I suppose, are called that by the people that can't do comedy. And people, the theatrical snobs who look down on things like pantomime. Oh, pantomime, ooh. We are slumming it, aren't we, dear? But we're not, dear, because pantomime is an art form, and not a lot of people, know the art form and can do it. And it's the ones that can't do it that sneer at it. Yeah. And that's absorbed in.
Well, there's 2 things there. First of all, importantly, pantomime 99% of the time is the first time anybody goes to the theatre, isn't it? So you get that experience. Yes. And secondly, to call you a comedy actor as a sort of derogatory thing is to undermine how hard comedy is to perform and get it right, isn't it?
As I say, use that expression, in a derogatory sense, are the ones who can't do it anyway. So it's best to just ignore them, I think.
Well, wrapping up on Sellers, I mean, you and I could talk about Peter Sellers for days, and I'm sure we will at some point down the line. But I know he's a person you would have loved to have worked with, and having spoken to people, certainly the last sort of late 1970s who worked with him, the key to make Peter Sellers relax on set was to lark about and do Goon Show voices. So you and him together would have been fantastic, wouldn't it? My God.
I've ever done the 2 characters was when I worked with Chris Emmett, who did Roy Hudd's Hudlines for donkey's years. He's a past King Water Rat as well, Chris. He's a lovely man. I've known him for donkey's years. And we did a spin-off of the Hudlines with June and Chris and Roy and me. And we did a Sherlock Holmes new case book. Yeah. Written by Tony Hare, and we had some great fun doing some comedy sketches based on Sherlock Holmes spoofs. And we had one, and it was called The 2 Blood Knocks. Because Chris also did a very good blood knock impression, and I did one, slightly different timbre. Chris's was softer because he's got a softer voice than me, but mine was more ebullient and aggressive. But put this together, we had the 2 blood knocks playing twin brothers, and it was hysterical. It's the only time I've ever legitimately done blood knock with somebody else doing it as well.
Wonderful. Can we have a quick burst of blood knock just for that?
Oh. Get her out the back, get her out the back. Oh, dear. Oh.
Oh, fantastic! Well, we agree on that one, Jeff. That's Peter Sellers as your funny man. That's brilliant. And I'm going to say, going back to your brilliant memoirs, the first rule of comedy. Every chapter has a different first rule of comedy, which Ted Bovis gave to young Spike in Heidi High, of course. One of which is pretty girls aren't funny.
Yes, that's very old.
So who's your funny woman then?
It was said by Ted Bovis in the show. First rule of comedy: pretty girls aren't funny, and it was because they wanted Sylvia to do something that Gladys wanted to do. You see, and she was saying, "Well, Sylvia can't do that," all the rest of it. Sylvia's got a posh voice and all the rest, and Paul stepped in because he didn't want any argument. He said, "Well, first rule of comedy: pretty girls aren't funny." But of course, they can be. They can be very funny. And Sue Pollard is a case in point. She wears glasses, but underneath the glasses, she's very pretty. But that's.
But in the show, they sort of almost dumb her down, enabled to let her to do those pratfalls and silly things, don't they? But as you say, Sue is gorgeous in real life.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. She was fantastic and very, very, very funny as Peggy Priceless.
Yeah. So would Sue be your funny woman then to take on this?
That's a given, isn't it? I mean, it has to be Sue, really, for me. But if I was to be honest with you and look elsewhere for a comedienne, a funny lady, a funny actress, I think I'd look back to Lucille Ball because she was wonderfully talented, very, very funny. I've got a videotape, a DVD collection of I Love Lucy. Yeah. Going back to 1951, when the first series was made, and it's classic comic stuff that she does. It's really very, very farcical. The wonderful neighbours of hers, Fred and Ethel. We remember Vivian Vance, who played Ethel, was incensed that they cast William Frawley as Fred because he was about 25 years older than her. She said, "What are you talking about?" But they worked together so well as characters on the screen. And when she saw that it did work after they'd done it, she backed off of it. But she was very, very upset.
Yeah, but there you go. So you got Lucille Ball, who is a very, very attractive lady and very clever because she owned the company as well, didn't she? So.
What a businesswoman she was, And in fact, she went as far as getting rid of the husband,
Right.
On her own, and she kicked him out. But, she was a very, very funny woman. Some of the expressions she uses, straight off the stage, but she put them on camera onto TV, and she created a precedent, really, for comedy on TV back in the early.
Yeah. And you're right, she did, because it is larger than life, some of the movements, but it works on that small screen, doesn't it? It really comes across.
It did, yeah. A lot of slapstick.
Yeah.
And custard pie faces and things like that. She actually made them work. They really did work.
And I mean, the roll call of guest stars on there. I mean, talking about slapstick brilliance. Harpo Marx was and she matches Harpo Marx, doesn't she? Move for move.
That's right. She does indeed. And plays the harp on a bed frame and all the rest of it.
Yes.
That went way back in the film. A bit naughty, but he did. She was fantastic. She really was. She has to be my other comedy lady.
All right. Well, as I love you so much, Jeff, you're allowed 2 in each category. There you go. Look at that. So you're doing okay. All right. So we've done your funny man is Peter Sellers, but you can have Stan Laurel as well. Your funny woman is Lucille Ball, but you can have Sue as a side order. Okay. So what about your favourite comedy series then? And it's going to be film, radio, TV, theatre, whatever. A series of comedies that you love.
Well, I was very, very proud to have been a part of what they now call the classic era of British television sitcom, through the 70s and 80s. And apart from all the stuff that I did, which would be selfish and rather egotistic of me to say that they were my favourites, I've got favourites, obviously, of whatever the stuff I've done. But, of all the other things that were going on around us at the time, I think probably my favourite sitcom it's gone to the top of the charts as the nation's favourite sitcom as well, which is Only Fools and Horses.
Wow, yeah.
John Sullivan, David Jason, Nick Lyndhurst and the team. And great joy of doing Panto with John Challis a couple of times. You know, he's wonderful. The Boise. I got him to do Boise. He tried to avoid it, you know, like he wanted to be a genuine Panto villain. Yeah. And I said, "Come on, John, slip one in. I'm going for a cognac." And, you know, I think I trying to get a Boise cognac in somewhere. And he said, "Oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do all that." I said, "Listen, mate, that's why you're on the poster, and that's what they've come in here for. They want to hear that. Try it." So he did. He tried it, and they took the roof off. We kept it in. Yeah. I think, you know.
Well, it's like you with the Heidi High thing, isn't it? I mean, like you say, it's what people know you for, and if they buy a ticket to see you in, you know, pantomime, even if you're playing the dame, they know you from that show, don't they? So it's almost like you owe the audience that little moment, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. And we had a little moment, a very, very genuine one, in the last pantomime I ever did in 2019 with Sue. It was lovely to work with Sue in pantomime. We had a great time. And at the very end, when she was playing the wicked fairy, they vanquish the fairy. The good fairies all surround her. The lights go out, and she's, "Oh, what's going on? What's going on?" And as soon as the lights come up, there's Peggy. See, in the blackout, they've changed her. Wig, hat, glasses, overall, Peggy. And there comes, the lights go up, and there's Peggy. And they went potty. The audience were absolutely potty. That's what they wanted to see. And then my voice comes out from the wings. "Are you there, Peggy?" So then I step onto the stage in a yellow jacket, white trousers, and white hair, mind you. I mean, all the white hair. What a Spike said, "Oh, there you are." And we all did Heidi Hi, Hody Ho to the crowd, and they absolutely loved it. There was a lot of explaining going on from mums and dads to the little ones, you know, but I think they got the point.
Well, having said that, if people, and I urge you to buy the book, The First Rule of Comedy, you have a lot of younger fans that know Heidi Hi because of the repeats and BBC iPlayer and all that, don't you? So
never ceases to amaze me. I get letters and communicate from people, from mothers who tell me about their little ones who are about 7 or 8 years old. "Oh, she loves Heidi High. She knows every word of every episode. She watches it all the time. She watches at least 2 episodes a day if I got to, you know, if I let her. She knows everything, and her favourites is Spike, and all this goes on, you know." There was one incident, which again I'm put in the book because it's a lovely story. We did an event in Harwich at the Harwich Museum, which has got a Heidi High exhibit now, because we did the filming up there with the holiday camp was there. It's gone now, because we were there with the crowd, and this lady told me she brought this little girl. Her name was Tia. I've never forgotten her. She was only about 7 or 8, and she said exactly that. You know, that she knew all the characters, all the favourites, and I mean, this mother herself wasn't even born when we were making the show back in the 80s, you know. But she said to me, she said, I had to explain to Tia. She said, I had to explain to her. I said, "Darling, this television program that you love so much, it was made a very, very long time ago. You know, and he may not look the same as he did when he was doing the show." She said, I don't care. I want to see him because he's Spike. He's Jeffrey Holland, and he's Spike." So anyway, she did meet me, and apart from, you know, the look of glazed shock in her eyes, but I said hello. She did warm to me, and, you know, I signed all her stuff, and we got on famously, you know, pictures taken and all sorts. So that's lovely. You know, it's continuing down the generations. You know,
yeah. Well, like you say, I mean, you know, Sir David Jason still dresses up as Del Boy and does signing conventions to this day. And I was going to say, because obviously, you know, Only Fools and Horses came back for one-off specials for many, many years, but Only Fools and Heidi High were pretty contemporaneous, weren't they? The early 80s into the mid 80s. So did you see the guys at BBC TV Centre, or did you hang out at sort of nights and things?
You know, while we were doing our studio stuff, they often came in to do a bit of rehearsal, and then they'd get in the coach and go off and do location stuff. You know, so we did cross paths, and I got to know Nick Lyndhurst quite well at the time as well, which was nice. He was a nice chap. Yeah. He's done well for himself, isn't he? You know, got into Frasier.
I know.
Fantastic.
Maybe he needs somebody to sort of, you know, play his British best mate over there and go over there, do a few episodes, Jeff. You know.
Yeah, there. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think this is an obvious question to answer, but what is it about Only Fools then, and that combination of the brilliant writing of John Sullivan and those great actors? That's it, pretty much, isn't it?
It's the reality again. You must have reality.
Yeah,
That's the first rule of comedy that Paul Shade ever said in Heidi High. The first rule of comedy, Spike, you must have reality. Where's your reality? And it's true. And Fools and Horses has got all the reality in the world. And it's out of the reality and the drama between the family members and the friends, that the comedy comes out of. And that's the secret of it for me. That's where clever John Sullivan was, to write stuff that was actually real domestic problems, serious problems, with Raquel having the baby and all that wonderful, that best line ever. I've never forgotten that line when the baby's born in the hospital and David sticks his head around the ward door in tears, and they run down the corridor, Uncle Albert and Rodney, and say, "What is it? What is it?" He says, "It's a little baby." It's just unexpected, that sort of
yeah.
So real. It was absolutely so real.
And John Sullivan, like as you say, like all the great comedy writers, he's not afraid to stitch in a bit of pathos and real tragedy in some of those storylines, aren't they?
Yeah, with Cassandra's problem, the way with Rodney, all the relationship they had was, teetering on the brink. But that's where a good comedy comes from. It's drama, reality. That's what Sullivan was so good at. Wonderful stuff.
You don't have to be a Londoner to get it, do you? I mean, it's the universal threads, aren't they, really?
Really. I mean, you could do all that stuff in Yorkshire, with the Yorkshire accent. It's still the same characters, same relationships, Brilliant, man.
Well, talking about brilliant comedy writers, the next category in this Quip Wrecked Desert Island comedy choices is creative or creators, writers, producers, directors. I've got a funny feeling I might know who you're going to pick for this, but go on, Tom.
It is my one self-indulgence program. It has to be Messrs. Croft and Perry, David and Jimmy. The stuff that they came up with together. When Jimmy first took him that Dad's Army script, which was originally known as Fighting Tigers, until Valerie Leon's husband, was he called?
Michael Mills, yeah.
Michael Mills. He suggested Dad's Army as a title, and they took it on board and they called it He's Never Looked Back. But, from that day on, the stuff they did together was just priceless and so very clever.
Well, again, I'm going to plug the book because it's all in the book. The first rule of comedy about how you first met Jimmy and David on the stage show of Dad's Army. But what is it about their writing then? And were you, obviously you worked with them for a long time. Were you close enough to get to the nitty gritty of the dynamic of their writing team together? Do you know who did what and the way they wrote together?
We got to the point where we could say, David wrote that line, or that's a Jimmy Perry line, And funnily enough, out of the two, I don't quite know which you would have chosen as the theatrical slapstick and the prim and proper one, but I got it totally wrong, because it was Jimmy Perry who was the prim and proper one, and David Croft put all the dirty gags in. It's true. It is absolutely true. And that, of course, that comes to the fore when he worked with Jeremy Lloyd.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Hello.
They were both putting the dirty lines in there.
That's right. But Jimmy and David's great gift, was casting. Casting of the right people in the right roles. And the characters... They said to me themselves one day, I remember having the conversation, when we first wrote Corporal Jones for Clive Dunn, we wrote what we hoped he would come out with. And when, of course, he did come out with the line the way they'd written it and hoped it would be said, then Corporal Jones, they said, virtually wrote himself. They knew exactly how Clive would say what they were writing down for him to say. And that's what was clever about their characterizations. Sergeant Wilson, Captain Mannering, all the characters, Hodges, the vicar, and the wonderful thing about that was, and I've said it before, about their characters and why their shows work so well, is because all these people wouldn't like each other under normal circumstances. Those businessmen in Warmington-on-Sea would never have socialised together. They would never have gone down the pub and had a jar together or met in the evening. Totally different sort of people. Imagine Fraser spending money in a pub? No. And, but under the common umbrella of the Home Guard, where the country was at stake, they were there to do their duty. That's where the comedy comes from, the interrelationship again between the characters that wouldn't normally. It's the conflict that causes.
You're absolutely right. Well, it's the same as the gang of Heidi High, isn't it? They're all thrown together in a holiday camp with the supposed job to keep the campers happy, but they would never.
Complete failures. They're all failures in their chosen professions. All of them. Complete failures. The ballroom dancing prize winners haven't won a cup since 1943. It's now 1959. That's all they can do is dance in the ballroom as a holiday camp. Gladys Pugh, the all-rounder, who's just struggling to find something to do and find a man to marry, basically. Ted's a failed comic, he does exhibitions all the year round, demonstrating potato peelers and telling funny stories. And then he goes to the holiday camp where he's kingpin. Kingpin for 12 weeks or whatever. And dragged Spike along. I don't know where he found Spike, but the tax office somewhere. I think Spike must have called on him to pay some overdue tax. To be a comedian, idiotic youngster who had all the enthusiasm in the world, like Jimmy Perry. Wonderful, but again, not like Jimmy Perry, no talent whatsoever. No chance. Wanted to be a great comedian, but he never would. He never would be.
You see that you don't fail as such, but you love Spike, like those young fans that come to you to the conventions to this day. There's something about Spike that you just try so hard, and you're so keen and enthusiastic and lovely and kind to everybody that you really want Spike to succeed somehow.
Well, if I made that come across, then I've done the job, which is lovely. No, thank you for saying that. That's smashing. But it's like all the things they gave. Spike was supposed to have made all those costumes himself. What budget? What budget has he got? He comes in the funny fireplace. That's a week and a half's work.
Yeah, exactly.
Paint and tools and God knows. But some of those elaborate costumes, they were just extraordinary. I mean, for visual effect, they were knockout, absolutely knockout.
Do you think Jimmy and David sort of laughed up their sleeve a bit, thinking, "Well, we going to put Jeff in this ridiculous costume this week"?
I think so, yeah. And they always ended up being chucked in the pool because they knew I hated it. So David did have a sadistic streak. He definitely did. I know that for a fact. He did. If you told David you didn't like something, he'd get you to do it. And I did it once. He said John Kilby was directing because David had to go into hospital for a heart bypass operation, and John Kilby was directing this particular series. And we had a pool splash to do. Chuck Spike in the pool. And Kilby came to me one day and he said, "Give me the ideas how we can do this." I thought, well, you're the director, but you're asking me? And he said, "Yeah, I'm just going to do this scene over here." I said, "Have a little think and let me know if you come up with it." So I thought, right, I don't want to do any more of these. So I thought to myself, if we do an absolute belter, they won't be able to top it. So I thought, let's do it off the top of the pool, the diving board in the pool, because there was a little 9-foot diving board on the far side of the pool with a little step ladder up each side of it. It was a solid thing. It wasn't a springboard. I thought, if we have a little Gladys and Spike have a custard pie fight up there, I put a pie in her face, she puts one in mine. We do all that business with the hands, and then we shake hands. And as we shake hands, she pulls me over and I go over and into the water. And that will make a dramatic wow moment. In Spike goes, I was dressed as the funny policeman as well, I was in my police uniform. So I thought, that's going to be a cracker. And it was. I mean, the moment I tipped over, and I thought, oh dear, I don't want to do this, but it was too late. I'd gone, and I was over the edge and down into the water. Whoosh! It was fantastic. It's great when you see it. And I was right. It was spectacular. But come the following year, I thought they'd go, yes, Spike goes in the pool. Oh dear, it didn't work. But we've got it there, and it's a cracker. It's a cracker to be seen.
But you don't mind too much suffering for your comedic art, do you? If you know it's going to go...
I'd rather not, but it's... No, I draw a line of pain. I mean, the water's okay; it's a splash, but I draw a line of pain.
Well, there's no pratfalls in this podcast. We're sitting down; it's all fine. So I'm not going to surprise you on anything. But no, it's amazing. And I mean, I was going to. You mentioned a while ago when we were talking about David and Jimmy about Clive Dunn, and then obviously recognising his talents and his strengths in performance. They must have fallen in love with you because you were in pretty much everything that David and Jimmy and Jeremy Lloyd wrote over the course of 25 years or so. So
I'm very pleased that seemed to be the outcome. Because they kept Sue, Paul, and I together for the 3 shows that we did. Heidi High, You Rang My Lord, and then Dr. Beeching a few years later. Because really, I always say this. They say, why do you think it was you 3? I think, well, we got on so well together that they liked the fact that we were close friends. And we were. But we were also 3 extremely different human beings. When you look at us together, you couldn't have 3 more different looking people, could you, standing in a row, the 3 of us. And because we got on so well, we knew how each other worked. Working in scenes together was just second nature to us. It just became that way. Paul and I clicked. I mean, it's in the book. It's a story I tell. But the day Paul and I met for the first time, we thought we'd worked together before. We hadn't, because the chemistry was there instantaneously. And it was the same with Sue. Once I got used to her, like the life out of me when I first met her.
Yeah.
When I got used to her, I could do exactly what sort of person she was, and she got to know me. And it's the same. It's the same thing.
You can't really fake that chemistry, can you? It's either there or it's not. And I'm sure Jimmy and David recognise that. And this is why. And I think certainly Gemma, my wife's favourite sitcom of yours, and I know it's yours. You Rang My Lord. That you're all stretched in different directions there. As you mentioned about your acting muscles being stretched. I mean, my gosh, your performance as James Twelvetrees is a masterclass in underplaying, really, I suppose.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. No, but it was a joy to do. It really was a joy to do, because basically James was a straight role for me. Within the comedy framework of the show, James was a straight character, and he was the butt of a lot of the jokes. He was the biggest snob in the house, knew his place, which everyone knew theirs, but of course they didn't. And he was forever trying to correct things that were going wrong, particularly with Alf Stokes, the butler. It was a wonderful relationship, again, between Paul and I, but of a different nature, totally to Heidi High. We're bitter enemies as opposed to close friends. And the Sue character of Ivy, right in the middle of it all the time. That was just an absolute joy to do. And the production quality of that show was just out of this world. It really was. I used to go home with backache every Friday night when we did the recording, standing upright and bolt upright in that outfit, all day long. I just get terrible backache and neckache, but it was worth it.
But also you mentioned about John Sullivan and the fact that the BBC allowed everybody involved with that show to have a 50-minute frame rather than half an hour. You had that little bit of extra room to really discover that character and allow a few moments of pathos and a few moments of tragedy, weren't you?
We got 50 minutes out of each You Rang My Lord, and there were so many subplots. I don't know how they actually got down to writing it, but I know they struggled with the last series to get the material together to do it. But doing 50 minutes, they got a lot of. And they were able to go here, there, and upstairs and downstairs and in the middle, and keep coming back to the various bits, subplots and subplots, all the time. It worked. It really did work.
We've just rewatched it again for the umpteenth time, and having been working with you a lot over the last few years, it's like it's quite a revelation, really, just having known you so well and now to watch that performance, and it's such a complete performance. But even those little moments, like I found off talking to you and your director on a lot of those episodes, Roy Gould, that David Croft didn't like cigarette smoke, for example. And that opening credits, there's Jimmy smoking a cigarette and David Croft coughing, isn't he? And you think, that's what they did.
I think that was their idea, to get that cartoon thing. It was such fun. He hated smoke, David. Jimmy was always chuffing on this pipe smoker was Jimmy.
So there you are. Well, David Croft and Jimmy Perry, I've got to say, two of the finest writing teams, not just in comedy but in television, full stop for me. So yes, a good choice there.
It was creative, definitely. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, we're coming to the end of it, Jeff, and as I say, we could talk for hours, but these are short podcasts. People have only got a short attention span on these things. You and I haven't. You and I could talk for ages.
But
the final section is favourite comedy film. Now, can you narrow it down to one?
Well, I mean, again, a given for me is Laurel and Hardy, and I do have a favourite Laurel and Hardy movie, which of course is Way Out West. The one that everybody knows that it's the only Western they ever made. Although they didn't dress in Western gear, they still had their bowler hats, but they made a concession to frock coats. But it was a Western, but it's got everything in it. It's a wonderful piece of work from them. But it was very much Laurel and Hardy, But as generally as comedy films go, I do have two others which I could list as favourites, but for two very different reasons. The first one is Some Like It Hot, which I think is a fabulous piece of work. Billy Wilder directed, didn't he?
Indeed, yes. Yeah.
It was a fabulous piece of work. I mean, Marilyn Monroe drove everybody nuts, because she was so unpredictable.
In all sorts of ways when you watch the film, but yes, indeed. Those stories are legion that she drove Billy Wilder crazy on the set, didn't she? But
I saw Tony Curtis interviewed and asked about how he actually got on with her, and he was very diplomatic. He was very politically diplomatic about it, but you could tell, she drove everyone nuts. But the end result is the end result, and it's wonderful. It's a fabulous piece of work. Those two men in drag, it's just unbelievable that they would do that sort of thing. And Tony Curtis's Cary Grant as well, his impression of Cary Grant.
Brilliant, yeah.
But in my other choice...
Nobody talks like that.
What do you mean? But my other choice is Mel Brooks, and it's the classic, the first one he got known for, and that's The Producers.
Ah, right.
Zero Mostel and
Gene Wilder.
Thank you. God, dementia setting in.
No.
Gene Wilder, but Gene Wilder, you see, was such a naturally funny man. His face was a gift. It was an absolute gift. He just used to have to stop and just relax his face, and you'd laugh. And he'd just flick his eye. You could just flick his eyes, and you'd know exactly what he was thinking. And that wonderful scene, which always never ceases to make me cry with laughter, I'm holding both sides, is when he takes his blue blanket away from him, and he's doing the my blue blanket, my blue. All this is going on. It's like a little boy who's taking his favourite toy off him. It's a wonderful piece of acting that he does there. It never ceases to make me roar with laughter. I love it. The little old lady land that he lives in, his little checky wecky. And it's so funny because
you never worked on Broadway, but obviously you've worked in theatre a lot. Is all that backstage stuff, all the shenanigans of getting money for plays and shows, is that all pretty true to form, really?
I honestly could put my hand on my heart and say I don't know, but I would hope not. I would hope that producers in the West End of London, particularly, are mostly with their own companies. The successful ones, like Andrew Lloyd Webber and Cameron Mackintosh, certainly are their own companies.
Yes.
You don't have to go cap in hand begging for money from...
Seducing old ladies.
So-called angels. People do invest. I mean, Ray Cooney's known for that. He's an angel, they call an angel. He invests money in a lot of shows, and because the successful ones get their money back. But the producers, what a story. What a fantastic story. I
want to touch on your other choice as well, Some Like It Hot, because you mentioned Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon in drag there. You've obviously played a lot of Panto dames in your time. Can you feel a bit of their pain with some of those costumes they've got to wear?
High heels. I couldn't wear high heels. I've got size 11 feet, and I'm a big fellow, you know. I couldn't get my feet into those sort of shoes. I used to have to wear sort of flat sandals, and mostly I wore those little damey boots, elastic-sided boots, which Arthur Askey and Jack Dadalino made popular way back when, and they were always very comfy and very damey for me. You know, the striped stockings and the little flat black boots. So that was never a problem. A funny little walk. I did a little. Fast speed walk just as a concession to femininity, but that was the only one. The only thing. The funny answer, I put it in the book as well. The first time I ever played Dame was in 1989 with Hinge and Brackett, because Paul and I couldn't get anyone else to do it, and he booked me to play the comic in this pantomime, this Sleeping Beauty, that was going to happen in Plymouth with Hinge and Brackett. At the time, they were very big, and playing the good fairy and the bad witch, which was a wonderful idea. And it did work a treat. And because when he said he couldn't get anyone to agree to play Dame, I just said those 3 words: "I'll do it." And all right, and I did. But the 2 things I could not get comfortable with was wearing a padded bra and lipstick.
Right.
Ugh, lipstick is vile. I don't know how women wear it. I really do not. It's absolutely cloying, nasty. It tastes vile. So I managed to use just an ordinary carmine bright red grease paint stick, which is tasteless and odorless. And I used carmine on my lips all those years, and that worked a treat for me. And I managed to get little pads stitched into the front of the frocks instead of wearing a bra. I couldn't breathe. I just could not breathe in a padded bra. Maybe it was too tight, but I just suddenly said, "I'm sorry, I can't cope with this. Can you put some pads in the frock?" And they did that. I did that all my 26 years of playing Dame. I wore padded bras, padded frocks.
Yes.
Carmine on my lips. But that was it. Yeah.
So how many times do you think you've seen either Some Like It Hot or The Producers? Do you watch them multi times or?
Yes, I've got a copy of The Producers. I bought Mel Brooks' book. A couple of years ago, he brought his biography out called "It's All About Me." Wonderful.
Good title.
All About Me. It's on the shelf behind me, and it's a wonderful read. And I just I thought, I've got to have some of these films, because I'd seen them all years before. So I just went online and ordered the whole lot. All the comedy, Robin Hood, Men in Tights, and Blazing Saddles. What a movie is that, Blazing Saddles! I was hard pressed between The Producers and Blazing Saddles, but they're very, very funny films, both of them. In some ways,
of course, Blazing Saddles references Laurel and Hardy as well, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes, but yeah.
With this Laurel and Hardy handshake and all.
That's right. He does that. That was some lovely stuff.
Yeah. And that wonderful moment with Gene Wilder, who says, "You know what they're like, morons," that sort of thing. So, and of course, in The Producers, it's we're not even talking about Jewish comedy and the whole tradition of the Marx Brothers and all that, but obviously Mel Brooks is, and the whole Nazism of The Producers and the Hitler stuff. I mean, that's pretty.
Unbelievable what they do with Hitler. Springtime for Hitler. Oh, what a show. What a show. We saw the stage version when it opened. And that was just as good. So very, very clever. Nathan Lane playing
brilliant, yeah, and it's coming back, I think, soon into the West End. But and funny enough, it's almost like we planned this, so we didn't, folks. I promise you, we didn't. But when the film came out, The Producers, it wasn't getting a lot of coverage from the studio, probably because of that fear of the Hitler stuff and all that. And Peter Sellers went on a campaign to say, "This great new film's come out, The Producers, you've got to see it," and didn't he? So
we read about it in your book. You covered that beautifully, because I didn't know about that. I sort of heard a whisper about it, but I didn't know to what extent he'd actually deliberately mounted a campaign.
Took a full page out in Variety to say, "You must see this film." And The Producers is a brilliant comedy, signed Peter Sellers, and it got everywhere because of that. So yeah,
absolutely brilliant. Well, he was right.
He was. Look at that. Oh, well, Jeff, that's been brilliant. Thank you so much for all your comedy thoughts and memories. And I've got to say again that Jeffrey Holland's memoirs, The First Rule of Comedy, is published by the History Press and is available now in all good, bad, indifferent bookshops and online.
by Jeffrey Holland with Robert Ross.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Bless your heart. Until the next time, thanks so much.
Look forward to it.
If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, please subscribe for more upcoming episodes and do tell your chums. You can find out where Robert will be appearing next or what books he has coming out by visiting his website www.robertross.co.uk. You can also follow Robert on Facebook if you search Robert Ross Comedy Historian. And he's also on Instagram at Robert W. Ross ESQ, that's Esquire, for more fun over there. This podcast was hosted by Robert Ross and produced by Gemma Ross.